BRI has to be and is much more important than just loans. And another metric, for example, is trade, which has probably been the biggest engine in reality for China's deeper engagement in BRI, but also globally over the last 10, 20, 30 years. I looked at the specific 64 countries that were originally BRI members at the start in 2013, and China's exports rose to those countries almost 20% last year, up to $1.2 trillion. Chinese imports rose 15%, almost to $1 trillion, and both are double 2015 levels. So a great significant growth in trade, bilateral, bidirectional trade between those countries, plus obviously with the strong diplomatic engagements, and this is what we see in Africa too, and the robust bidirectional commercial opportunities, it's paved the way for many thousands of Chinese businesses to set up operations in almost all sectors across BRI. So first led by probably the SOEs, like that was at least the case in the African context, but predictably over the last decade, increasingly it's been the private, smaller companies that have responded to these economic incentives most swiftly, and they've become a driving force in China's global participation, reshaping global trade and investment courts, uh, sort of getting involved in greenfield investment, brownfield investments, M&A. We're seeing that play out. It's about, I don't know what the exact number is, but I think close to $100 billion of investment, FDI, into BRI. And so in almost all of these countries, if you were to go back to 2013, walk around those countries, and then fast forward to now, and you walk around those countries in the big cities, you're going to see Chinese presence in all of those markets growing exponentially. And I often said, I mean, many African cities are totally unrecognizable to what they were just 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And largely that's a result of greater Chinese trade, Chinese loans, Chinese investment. And in fact, not to bore you, but I'm going to Kenya next week. And one of the questions I asked my boss, so I have a stopover, and I said, is there an airport hotel at the airport in Nairobi, because the next morning I need to fly to South Africa? And he said, and one of the reasons was I don't want to go on that road that takes you to the hotels into town, because it takes an hour or two. And my boss said, well, that first of all, that road doesn't exist anymore because our Chinese client has actually just refurbished that road. And now what used to take 2 hours to get into Nairobi takes 20 minutes. So all of these cities are becoming much more productive and very, very different to what they were just a decade ago. And that's largely on the back of these kinds of partnerships. So it's much more than loans, much more.